it's all as a result of a lie, a dirty, rotten, stinking lie that was created to put me in the frame, and it's now taken up a quarter of a century of my life. Well, I can tell you and I can tell them I have nothing to do with this, nothing on my conscience, and I'll meet my maker with a clear conscience. I've been getting these. I had this very strange late night phone call there a few weeks ago, and it was. I didn't listen. I didn't say anything. I just said, "Ian Bailey, you're son. Rather, the net is closing in upon you."
Really?
Now
With
it
a
could.
French accent?
Well, yeah, it could have. It could have been like an actor. It could have been somebody pretending, but it sounded like it was nothing. So I just listened. I didn't say anything at all. In Bantry, if you talk to a lot of people, they believe that it was a member of the Guards who murdered Sophie Toscan du Plantier.
A member of the Guard?
Yeah, a detective who had been contacted by Sophie because her neighbour, Alfie Lyons, she'd become aware was growing marijuana, the wicked marijuana. And she'd reported that through a housekeeper, Josie Helen, to the Guards. And he was a detective. Now, whether it was him or not, I do not know. All I know here in Ireland is that there are people who know I have nothing to do with this and know that I'm completely innocent, and they're remaining silent on it. And it's a terrible, terrible tragedy for the French family, my ex-partner Jules, myself, other people in the family, the community. And it's all as a result of a lie, a dirty, rotten, stinking lie that was created to put me in the frame, and it's now taken up a quarter of a century of my life. Well, I try not to feel like a victim. I know there are people in authority here, in the Guards and within the legal profession, the state, who know I have nothing to do with it. Well, I was advised to by my lawyers not to.
Okay.
I was told I would have no chance whatsoever, and I wasn't to be represented, and that was a decision taken by Mr. Frank Buttermer and Dominique Tricot. So I was never, it was never going to happen. And I noticed recently, of course, your president came to Ireland and even went. I mean, this is astonishing now. I'm a human being. I'm an individual. And with a lot of support from a lot of people, albeit, and I'm fighting two states. I'm, the state of Ireland and the state of France. And I don't think there can be many people who've ever been in that situation. But I noticed he made a call, saying for the condemned man, as he described me, to present himself in Paris. Well, I'm not going to do that. My understanding of French law, and I've got 3 degrees of law. I studied a little bit of French law and the Bonaparte Code. Is although under our system you do have the right to the presumption of innocence, and I know the French system says you have that right. It isn't like that at all. If you're accused, you're guilty. So. And how could I possibly get a fair trial anyway, with all the publicity and everything that's being said about me in the Netflix? No, I've seen clips of Netflix to do with a black coat that they claim I burnt, which I didn't, because I was wearing it on the Christmas Day swim, quite clearly, and it's on the list of items taken from me when they first arrest me. Number 1, it says long black coat. And then the guard who tries to frame me is in Netflix saying he burnt the coat. Nonsense. Not true.
Okay.
And I mean, it's provably not true because I've got the coat when they arrest me.
You have the coat.
Well, on my first arrest on the 10th of February 1997, a lot of my clothing was taken, and one of the items taken was my long black coat. And I've never had it returned. I've actually asked the DPP to try me to reconsider the case, but you see, the whole file that was rejected here repeatedly, I think on 4 or 5 occasions, and there's a document, the DPP, the Independent Prosecution Authority here, in 2001, commissioned one of their officers, Robert Sheehan, to look at the entire case against me as presented by the guards, and he went through everything. And he rejected absolutely everything. And he pointed out the fact that statements had been changed, statements had been created, and people had been coerced into making statements. And yet all of that then was accepted into the French, French criminal justice system. And then statements which were long retracted by Maria Farrell and others were included in the French prosecution, and their retractions were ignored. Yeah, well, because they convinced her. Well, one, I think she was out having an affair with somebody, and they had that sort of that leverage on her. And 2, they convinced her that I was the murderer. And she said this in the case when we put the case against the state. She said one detective in particular said, "Oh, he's not only he's a very strange man. Not only he's a murderer, but he also crazy stuff. Does naked poetry readings under full moons on a beach in West Cork with 10 dancing lesbians dancing." But somebody knows, and somebody's gone to an awful lot of trouble to put me in the frame. And it's and I do have absolute empathy with it. I know the family believe that I'm the murderer. Well, I can tell you, and I can tell them, I have nothing to do with this, nothing on my conscience, and I meet my maker with a clear conscience. But I can't prove, how they bought into the false narrative.
Si l'intéressé consent à sa remise aux autorités judiciaires françaises, la condamnation sera alors non avenue et un nouveau procès pourra être organisé en sa présence, ce qui n'a pas été possible compte tenu du fait qu'il n'a pas souhaité se soumettre à la justice française. C'est cette confiance mutuelle entre nos juridictions qui doit nous conduire à trouver un chemin sur cette affaire criminelle.
Yeah, I was astonished by that. My phone started hopping there a few weeks ago, and I decided I wasn't going to make any comment, and I put everybody onto Frank. But it was quite astonishing to hear the president of the great Republic of France, and calling for the condemned man to, in effect, sort of walk into the lion's den. I'd have loved the opportunity to have been tried here, because it would have been, I think, quite clearly provable I had nothing to do with it.